Hey everybody, and welcome to Pixel Peak this week.
We're glad to have you join us.
The weather is getting warmer, and spring is well on its way.
Yeah, and I can't wait. But let's go ahead and introduce the news.
To start us off this week, we're bringing back Among Us, the game that became so popular about a year ago.
Yes, the game has a new map, the biggest one yet.
And along with this map comes speculation that we'll be seeing changes to the lobby sizes in the future, and rumors of a new art style being introduced to the game as well.
Next, our attention moves to Mario and the slight craziness that comes with the reselling of games.
Yeah, recently a copy of Super Mario Bros. Was sold for $666,000.
What?
I know, right? On the opposite of these big ticket legal transactions, there is also a police bust in China of what is being called the biggest video game cheating operation in history.
That's probably the most action-packed news we've ever done.
Yeah, I think so.
For our final news article, we're going down memory lane in more ways than one with a Tamagotchi-like game based on the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion.
That's really neat.
Yeah, something for both anime fans and gamers.
For this week's analysis, we have associate producer Jacob Barber taking over the reins for our Xbox review.
And for game review, we will have our Nintendo analyst Ruby Hall telling us all about the new Monster Hunters game.
Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I'm Bryce Gates.
And I'm Sydney Thompson, and we hope you enjoy your stay here
on Pixel Peak. Among Us recently added a new map to its playlist named The Airship, which is the largest map currently in the game. It is so large, in fact, that floating platforms are included, as shortcuts and ladders are now needed to traverse the multiple layers of the map. Along with all of the extra legroom are new tasks for crewmates to do while the imposter hunts them down. These various new tasks include installing a showerhead, shining a jewel, fast forwarding a video cassette, unclogging a toilet, and more. Along with all these twists and turns of the map comes new Easter eggs as well. Of these, some of our favorite pop culture references that can be found. Inside the vault, you can not only find the Bloodblade, which is an energy sword variant from Halo, but also a painting from the Final Destination map from Super Smash Bros. Hanging in between the Starry Night painting and a sus version of the Mona Lisa. Across the map and in the armor, you can also find a katana, bow staff, a pair of sai, and a nunchuck, which each have a color scheme matching up to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Be on the lookout for any other Easter eggs littered throughout the map. Along with the large size of the map, there are 3 different starting points to mitigate walking time. It seems that Intersoft was preparing the map for their next update, which will have included players' lobby sizes to be increased to 15, along with a new art style, which is said to have cleaner lines to allow for easier animation.
For some interesting Mario-related news this week, a sealed copy, meaning it has never been opened before, of the original Super Mario Bros. Has sold for $660,000 at auction. The game, originally created for the Nintendo Entertainment System, now holds a record for the most expensive video game ever sold at auction. Who is the former record holder of the most expensive game? The Nintendo PlayStation, previously being sold for $300,000 less than Super Mario Bros. In another Mario-related story, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a game originally released in 2020, has been delisted. What this means is the game is no longer being produced and sold by Nintendo in retail stores alike. So all of the copies in existence currently are all there is left. The delisting took place on March 31st, 2021, and scalpers are already taking advantage of this. When checking sites like eBay, there are many game listings for as much as $1,500, with some reaching highs of $25,000 for the game. Originally, fans thought Nintendo would change their mind about removing this game, but once it happened, people jumped at the opportunity to make a quick buck. There is no telling whether or not these high-priced listings are actually being bought, but hopefully nobody gets caught in this trap.
In a crazy crime-related story, Chinese police and gaming tech giant Tencent have worked together to bust what police are saying is the biggest video game cheating operation ever. Operation Chicken Drumstick was an illegal organization with a website selling cheat software to hundreds of countries and regions. Some of the most popular games the group designed and sold cheats for were Overwatch and Call of Duty Mobile. The operation offers a subscription-based service on their website for users, with prices being at $10 per day and up to $200 per month, depending on the complexity and the quantity of the cheats. Police estimated roughly $76 million in revenue was generated by the organization, which came from their subscription service. When police raided Chicken Drumstick's headquarters, assets worth roughly $46 million were seized, including several luxury cars. Police also found and destroyed 17 computers, generating cheats, and arrested 10 people who were in connection to the organization. Police called this the biggest bust in history due to the large amounts of money generated in revenue and the number of games involved. With cheating software only becoming more advanced and easily accessible, some claim that this is ruining the gaming industry. Some professional players have even quit the pro scene due to the number of cheaters on some games. Police have been intensifying the crackdown on cheating in the recent years due to this advancement, and they hope to have more of a grip on this in the near future.
In the anime world, there are some names that seem to be universal. Included is definitely Neon Genesis Evangelion. While being very cryptic and confusing at times, the anime has been very popular since it first aired in 1995. So it was no wonder that the game Neon Genesis Evangelion Angel Raising Project was released in 1999. This game was released onto the Bandai WonderSwan, a handheld game device only released to Japan. The game took a Tamagotchi-like path in terms of gameplay, but instead of a pet, you are raising an angel from their embryonic stage into one of 20 adult forms. You can even battle Shinji, Rei, and Asuka Evangelions if you want. In the game, you play as Ryoji Kaji, the Nerf Special Inspector, and Misato's ex from the show. There are also some elements in the game that allow you to explore Tokyo 3 and interact with Misato, Meiya, Shinji, Asuka, and Rei. So why is a game from 22 years ago that was only released in Japan so important? Well, a fan group known as Anime Game Translations Team has released an English dub of the game only last month. The only way to play the game, however, is to both install an emulator of the WonderSwan as well as downloading the game from romhacking.net, which is also where the fan group uploaded their dub of the game. With this, the 22-year-old game has finally come to English audiences for the first time.
So, Monster Hunter Rise is one of those games that I have been having a ton of fun playing. The hunts are just so thrilling. It keeps making me want to go back for more, and I'm just loving every bit of this game. So, let's get right into it. I'm really excited, and there's a lot to talk about. So, first things first when it comes to Monster Hunter is it is traditionally one of those games that are harder for newer players to get into. However, Monster Hunter Rise is actually really good at easing new players into the experience. It's a lot newcomer friendly than the older titles. Granted, there is still a large learning curve there, but it's very rewarding to learn the systems and get used to everything. Another thing about Monster Hunter Rise is that it has a ton of customization options. This includes things like weapon types. There's a ton of different weapon types, and each one has their own crafting trees and upgrade paths. So you can get a bunch of different weapons for any kind of monster you'd like to fight, whether you want an elemental damage, you want higher durability, higher damage output, things like that. There's also many different kinds of armor to protect you from the different kinds of monsters that are out there. Some have fire attacks, some have water attacks, and sometimes you just want to look fresh. So there's a lot of armor you can use to mix and match. Another one of the systems in Rise is the buddy system, and buddies are great. You can go into battle with a Palico and a Palamute, a Palico being your cat companion, and a Palamute being your dog companion. And the best part is, you get to pet your dog!
Good job, doggo.
You can pet Doggo! It's great! I just want to pet Doggo. That's all I want to do in this game is pet Doggo. Oh yeah. Anyway, There's also loads of new strategies to take on monsters, including riding them into battle. You can literally hop on the back of a monster and start dueling the other monster with it. It's absurd and it's thrilling and I love it. And again, with the new strategies, they also added in wire bugs. They add a new sense of mobility, lets you do some cool aerial attacks because you can launch yourself in the air or move around a bit faster. To add in with the extra mobility options that are available in Rise, one of them is being able to ride on the back of your Palamute. This lets you go faster, and it also allows you to do things like drink a potion or sharpen your weapon on the back of your dog so you can stay on the move so you don't get hit by whatever monster you're currently fighting. You can also drift. That's cool. In Rise, there's also a new mode in there called the Rampage mode. It's essentially a sort of tower defense type of mode where you defend the village against hordes of monsters coming in, and you have things like ballistas and villagers to help you fight them off. It's not my personal favorite way to play the game, but it is pretty popular among the community for those who like those kind of epic set piece battles. However, like with any game, there are a couple drawbacks. Definitely the biggest thing is technical limitations from the Switch hardware itself. This is a bit of a demanding game on your Switch. Unfortunately, you may run into some frame drops, but hopefully there are some patches that come out that help optimize these things and help reduce frame drops in the future. There is also a possibility for this game to be ported to other systems, so hopefully a stronger system may help remedy these frame drops and hopefully get a bit of a better experience out of them. Another thing is just the general kind of confusing nature of getting into the game for the first time. It is a huge learning curve, and it can at times sometimes feel a little overwhelming, but the game is pretty good at trying to ease you into things, but at some points it can feel a little bit overwhelming. With the tutorials, there are a lot of them in the game, but things can still be kind of unclear as it may not explain it that well, or some explanations might be kind of weird to understand, or sometimes the tutorial isn't really there, so you kind of have to guess. But overall, they do a pretty good job. It's just a couple instances where I think they could explain the systems within the game a little bit better. Overall, this game is a ton of fun. I've never played Monster Hunter before, so I didn't know what I was getting into, and I was really pleasantly surprised for what this game had to offer. I highly recommend playing with friends. That's how I have had the most fun playing this game, but single player is also a ton of fun, so there isn't really a wrong way to experience it. There is a lot to learn getting into the game, but as a newcomer myself, I really appreciate the depth the game has, and it really has a ton of content to chew through. This game will keep you busy for a long time. I give this game my rating of top of the mountain. I've had a ton of fun with it, and I highly recommend picking it up and giving Monster Hunter a chance.
Joining us today, we have associate producer Jacob Barber to talk about the latest Microsoft news, including their next potential big purchase for $10 billion of messaging service Discord. Thanks for joining us, Jacob.
Thanks for having me.
So, what might be the biggest benefit to purchasing an app such as Discord? And on the other hand, do you think there could be any cons for Microsoft?
So one of the biggest benefits to purchasing Discord would basically be bragging rights at the top. And second would be that they could either integrate that app into their current like Xbox Live Party Chat system or completely replace the Party Chat with Discord. And that would allow for seamless communication between console and PC players. And aside from that, any cons currently, there aren't really any. Microsoft has the money to buy it. And so if they were to, it wouldn't be any real negatives to it.
It'll be interesting to see if this goes through because recently Microsoft has fallen short with failed attempts to purchase other apps such as TikTok and Pinterest. So Microsoft is clearly craving a community connection, and I'm sure we've all forgotten that they do own Skype. So are you afraid of them making any missteps if this purchase goes through? From personal experience, I wouldn't say the interface needs much reform.
Right now, I'm not afraid of Microsoft making any missteps. And personally, I don't even think they would change the interface itself. I think they would more than likely just keep it as is, unless they integrate it into their own service or use it as a standalone app for the like Xbox dashboard or any of that stuff. But outside of that, I don't think there'd be any problems.
Well, this is certainly some big news. So, do you think this may be what Microsoft needs to help them get an edge over Sony or Nintendo?
Well, right now, Microsoft isn't really worried about getting a lead over either company since there's a lack of consoles at the moment. Nintendo, they're doing fine, but as I said before, both Microsoft and Sony are a bit at a standstill when it comes to meeting the huge demand for their next-gen consoles. You can't get a Series S or X or the PlayStation 5 practically anywhere at the moment, and anytime they come in resupply, they just run out of stock in about 5 minutes. And aside from that, both companies, at the moment, they both have a way to communicate with their party chat services. But since Microsoft, if they were to get Discord, that would make the process more streamlined as far as crossplay between, say, PC players and just other Xbox Live members. They can all communicate in one service as opposed to trying to get PC players to join an Xbox Live party, which is through another app in and of itself that Microsoft has for the Xbox Game Bar, which is on PC. And that would really make things a lot more convenient. And if they were to get that, it wouldn't be a big edge over anything, but it would just make lives a bit easier for gaming.
Of course. So now, in some unrelated but interesting Microsoft news, the Xbox has a new Series X mini fridge in the works. So can you tell us why?
So the Xbox Series X mini fridge, it's inspired, of course, by the Xbox Series X, but the reason why it's coming into existence is because around the end of last week, Twitter had launched a hashtag best of tweets competition, and in the brands category, it was Xbox up against Skittles. And the Xbox marketing chief, Aaron Greenberg, had promised that the Xbox Series X mini fridges would go into production only if the Microsoft brand came out on top. And Xbox actually edged out Skittles by a very close margin with 50.5% against 49.5%. And so because of that, there's going to be some Xbox Series X mini fridges, which, I mean, that's a pretty neat collectible.
That'll be an interesting thing to see. So Xbox players can now access multiplayer free-to-play games without needing an Xbox Live Gold subscription. So how do you think this will benefit Microsoft and gamers?
So in this case, it's not really a big benefit to Microsoft, more so than it is to the gamers. Originally, you needed an Xbox Live Gold subscription to play games that were already free to play on platforms such as the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and PC. And some of the top games that people really played that were free to play on those systems were Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, Rocket League. But now you no longer need to pay $10 a month on top of your already what is your internet service subscription. And now you can just play them whenever you want, as long as you have them downloaded.
Makes them more genuinely free to play. So sounds like a good plus there. So what news or updates do you want to hear from Microsoft next? Honestly,
the only thing I'm hoping for right now is for them to ramp up productions on their latest consoles, because right now I don't have my own Xbox Series S or X, and I really want to get one. But yeah, that's really it for me.
Well, it has been certainly difficult for anyone to get their hands on any of the new consoles, but I'd like to thank you for joining us, Jacob, and I'll throw it back to Sydney and Bryce for the outro.
Thank you, Ruby, for the game review this week.
Yeah, and thanks, Jacob, for this week's Xbox analysis.
We had a lot of interesting news this week. The Among Us updates look really cool.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we'll test it out in a special episode or something.
Not to mention that Super Mario Bros. Story. Crazy. I can't believe it resold for that much money.
I know, but hey, with how crazy the world is and how expensive school is, that much cash would be really nice.
Agreed. That Evangelion Tamagotchi game sounds pretty interesting, though.
Well, apparently there's a Tamagotchi for Demon Slayer too.
Really?
Yeah, I actually considered getting one a while back.
That's interesting. Maybe other anime will get in one of those Tamagotchi train as well.
Who knows? I guess only time will tell.
For sure. But moving on, like every week, we have new Pixel Peak episodes coming out every Monday afternoon at noon. You can find them on WatchAppTV.com, SkyVest channels 20 and 1020, Spectrum channel 198, and on App State's Campus Television channel 23.3.
And you can always get reminded of upcoming episodes by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts at Pixel Peak App TV.
Of course, we have our incredible crew to thank for this week's a great episode. Thanks to our writers, Rebecca Larson, Josh Bill, and Zach White, along with game reviewer Ruby Hall, producers Nick Corbin, Elise Taylor, Haley Cipher, and Jacob Barber for another week of impeccable gaming industry content.
Thank you all for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here
on Pixel Peak.